Hey, and welcome back to the Israel Mobile Summit. We just heard a very inspiring yet difficult story about how Cut the Rope became from just a game into a significant brand that affected all the world. And now let's talk about monetization in games and especially in-app purchases and in-app advertising. So IAP plus IAA equals user retention, meaning if you mess it up, the retention will be messed up as well. So how do you mix them up? What kind of recipe is there to make IAP and IAA ideally for user retention? We have the best person to tell us all about it. So please meet Tomas from Meta. Hi, Tomas.
Hey, how are you? It's good to be here.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. How are you?
Yeah, very good. Thanks.
Yeah, I just recently found this on new Meta Audience Network, the article about IAP and IAA, like how it affects the retention. I guess that's one you'll be covering in more details, right?
Correct. We're going to be covering a little bit of that information and also some industry trends that we've seen.
Great. So I'm eager to hear all about it, and I'm passing over to you. Have a nice speech. Good luck.
Awesome. Thank you. Hi, everyone, and welcome. Hope everyone is well and having a great event. In this session, we'll be talking about balancing your game monetization mix to include in-app ads and in-app purchases. Finding the right combination can be quite challenging and depends on various factors related to your game and your business model. Hopefully, we'll be able to provide you with some insights today. Before we get started, a quick intro. My name is Tomas. I'm a strategic partner manager for Meta Audience Network in EMEA, working specifically on the Israel region. So let's get started. Today, we want to explore these 4 questions. First, why consider a mix of in-app advertising and in-app purchases? Then, how to estimate in-app advertising revenue potential? Third, what results are publishers and some of our partners around the world seeing in different types of games after integrating ads? And last but not least, how can Meta Audience Network help? Let's start with why it's important to balance your monetization mix. There's evidence showing that game publishers are driving higher retention and profitability with the right combination of IAP and in-app advertising. A balance in game economy is a crucial aspect to that. When done successfully, you can have a major positive impact on your business while keeping your players happy and engaged as they should be. If you only target a small percentage of the population that accounts for the majority of the mobile game sales in your app, you might be missing out incremental revenue. If you leaned on in-app purchases to reach your current phase of growth, consider exploring in-app ads. And if, on the other hand, you've been relying only on ad monetization, you might want to consider in-app purchases as well. So even after all the headlines of the past year, what's the current state of the industry? According to the IDC, that is the International Data Corporation, mobile gaming advertisers' revenue paid to publishers and developers is still growing at a healthy expansion rate of 17% growth rate year over year. Even considering iOS changes in 2021, the IDC predicts worldwide mobile in-game revenue will continue to thrive to 44 billion in 2022 and the years to come versus 32 billion in 2020. Not only the industry is growing, but research has shown that players are increasingly more receptive to in-game ads. We have hyper-casual, casual, and social casino games. Players have traditionally been more exposed to ads than those playing mid-core or hardcore, since they are a more common form of monetization in this type of games. What's really interesting is that due to player opt-in formats like rewarded video, player perception toward ads is more favorable than ever, with several hardcore and mid-core mobile games now actively adding this ad format into their experience. And data shows this. According to a recent study from the IDC, over 70% of hardcore gamers either like or at least are receptive to the rewarded video ad experience on those games that they play. The reality is that when ad integrations are done well, players recognize that it can lead to a positive and enjoyable experience. Having said that, we understand the process of implementing ads in a game for the first time can be quite daunting, and you are likely to have several concerns. One of the most frequent questions we get is, will ads have a negative impact on player retention? Of course, there's no universal answer, but data suggests that it does not. A study from IAP IAA showed, and reflected in this graph, an increase in daily active users and session times in 3 months after a game installed an ad SDK. So in short, player time increased in games after integrating ads. Furthermore, even though there was some regional variances in the results, overall, the increase in time spent was seen in all countries across the globe after the first month. And perhaps even more significant, as you can see in this chart here, the biggest increase in total time spent was seen 3 months after the ad SDK installation, meaning it was a long-term and sustainable change. Another frequent concern is, will ads impact retention? Well, most likely no. If we look at the same study from IAP IAA, we find that worldwide, mobile games saw higher monthly active users and downloads after an ad SDK was installed. In this study, one of the most interesting findings shows that mobile games that installed their first ad SDK in 2019 actually increased in monthly active users and downloads compared to the pre-installed period. And again, there are some regional variances, but this true holds in most of the countries. Okay, but now you might be thinking, will ads actually lead to incremental revenue? In addition to having a positive impact on time spent, publishers are increasingly seeing hybrid monetization models as a way to diversify their revenue and earn incremental revenue. We know that combining IAP is crucial because a very small percentage of players are the ones that are paying. In fact, recent studies show fewer than 5% of players actually engage on in-app purchases. This means that for cases like this, where there's a huge pool of players in a sense that they're not being monetized, can translate to a very significant revenue increase when a correct in-app advertising strategy is implemented. So to recap, here are the 4 main benefits of adopting a hybrid monetization model, in-app ads alongside in-app purchases. First, diversification. As we just covered, depending on less than 5% of users to generate 100% of your revenue can be a risky proposition. In-app advertising helps to diversify your risk, especially in countries where players typically don't engage with in-app purchases. Then time spent. We've seen evidence from several studies in in-app advertising can lead to an increase in time spent in your game. Then seize the opportunity. Only a small percentage of users are paying, and you can avoid IAP cannibalization when ads are integrated correctly. And then enhance player experience. Research shows that RV is a way to improve the experience and can lead to moments of joy also for the user. So what would this incremental revenue from ads look like for you? Revenue potential would vary greatly from game to game, but this is how we typically think when estimating average revenue that a game can expect from integrating app ads. We look at metrics such as daily active users, the ad frequency you're planning to integrate on your games, the engagement rate, and finally, the eCPM values. But what does this look like in practical terms? This is a recommendation we give publishers or developers are entering the advertising world to do a quick estimation of how much ad revenue they could win daily. First, how many unique players open the game on average each day? You need to multiply this by both the number of ads per day a player can have access to. Let's say if you're deciding to integrate rewarded video, maybe it will be 3 impressions by daily active users. and also the expected ad engagement you will have with a specific ad format. This translates for rewarded video into how many players are actually opting in to watch the rewarded video. With the resulting value, you can then multiply the CPM benchmark per ad format. And here you can either use a global CPM, in this case, let's say $20, or since CPMs can vary a lot country by country, you can subdivide the calculation into groups and use country or regional CPMs. The results will give you an indication of the ad revenue potential per day, which in this case turns out to be 18K, so note that. Right, now that we covered how to estimate the value of in-app ad revenue, let's talk about how to determine the right monetization mix and strategy for your game. As with most things in life, there is not a one glove fit all model, but instead you should think about your monetization strategy as a result of your type of game and player experience. You can see some examples on the screen, and as you can imagine, we will not recommend the exact same ad strategy and integration for, say, a hyper-casual game, which might entail shorter, quick bursts of gameplay versus a hardcore game where players spend more time interacting with the game. Revenue is not always everything, and you will also want to ensure implementing ads can increase player retention and improve lifetime value. Here are some examples of metrics and success stories from some of our partners who worked on several case studies with Audience Network. What we see from a variety of publishers such as Activision Blizzard or Product Madness is evidence of an overall increase in session, time spent in game, retention, and LTV when adopted a hybrid monetization mix. This could be in-app purchases plus ads on a rewarded video format. We will now cover some of these success stories in a bit more detail. And so let's start with a look at hyper-casual games, highlighting a case study with Supersonic. Supersonic is a hyper-casual game developer company. Mostly during 2020, they published 20 games and scaled from a one-person team to 100 between their offices in Tel Aviv, Kyiv, and Minsk. Supersonic looked to Meta as a partner who could support their game from testing early prototypes and creatives to landing the right monetization mix. One of these approaches was adding IAP to their in-app advertising economy. Supersonic monetized most of their users with ads, partnering with Meta Audience Network. But they've also found that some users are willing to pay a bit more for a no ad experience or to get virtual goods within the game. As such, their team regularly runs A/B tests to see how users react to new ad placements and hybrid monetization features. In almost all cases, they observed that integrating hybrid monetization features benefits games' key performance indicators. Next, we'll look at Ludia Games as an example of how mid-core mobile game publisher has found success introducing in-app ads alongside in-app purchases. What was Ludia's challenge at the time? They wanted to increase the mobile app revenue for their IP focus-only monetization model. The solution, integrating rewarded video with real-time bidding and invest more in user acquisition app install optimization. They saw massive results. First of all, 4x increase in rewarded video ad revenue without having an impact on IP revenues or their overall strategy. 25% longer session time from players who were actually watching ads when compared to those who didn't. And 50% of daily active users watching at least one ad per day. Finally, we'll look at Product Madness as an example of how a social casino game can find the right monetization mix for their genre. Product Madness is a leading London-based social casino developer that had long depending on in-app purchases only as a revenue stream for titles, but wanted to explore ads monetization for the first time. But the question on their mind was, will ads disrupt our established IAP player base? They decided to implement rewarded video at a certain point of the game where they knew players could get stuck or frustrated and stop playing the game. With rewarded video, players had the choice whether or not to engage with the ad in order to progress. For example, players choosing to watch an ad were then rewarded extra coins to do more slot spins. And the results of this amazing test were, after testing and monitoring results in one of its games and seeing such positive results, product managers decided to implement the ad strategy across all of their portfolio of games. And they saw, for some of them, 120% increase in ARPDAU for Heart of Vegas, an increase of 7% in overall slot spin for Cashman Casino, and 2% lift in user retention for all of the games after ads were implemented. Okay, so at this point of the presentation, you should be understanding how a well-balanced monetization mix of in-app advertising and in-app purchases will benefit you and your business. So let's dig in how Meta can help you reach your goals. Meta Audience Network is an ad network designed with the experience in mind. First, we understand that user experience is key for the success of a game, and by putting the player first, we are building positive ad experience with high value ad formats. Then it is clear that you need a partner that can match with your audience while generating great performance. Here at Meta, we benefit from our strong pool of advertisers who are bringing diverse demand, not only gaming, and we have a global reach. Now, you also want to be as efficient as possible when it comes to monetization. And by being 100% bidding ad network, Meta helps you maximize yield with minimum resources. Lastly, we also share a lot of values with developers, as we own several apps, such as Facebook and Instagram. So we understand the importance of investing in security and privacy and ensure compliancy with all initiatives. We also want to make sure that publishers have access to tools for safety, such as block lists. When you bring all that together, you have an ecosystem where everyone gets to win. Your players have a seamless ad experience with quality ads, which offer users a variety of brand safety controls. You, as an advertiser, can reach your target audience and meet your objectives. Then our diversified demand, increased competition on our platform, which means better returns for you as a publisher. And so we balance the need of people, advertisers, and publishers. Let's do a quick overview on how you can get started with Meta Audience Network. There's two options, actually. First, how to create a business manager. The first option that we have is you can start from the Meta Audience Network portal. So you can go to facebook.com audience network getting started. You can sign in with your personal Facebook account. And then there's a series of steps that the system will recommend to create the business account, the manager account. And after this, you will have access to the monetization manager where you can start creating your properties and monetize with Meta Audience Network. The second option is to use the developer facebook.com, where you can sign in with your personal Facebook account, go to my apps section, create a business and a monetization manager account, and then start creating the properties to monetize your apps. Finally, I wanted to cover a little bit of the new program built by our marketing team. Meta Blueprint is a portal created recently to help game developers have all the Meta Audience Network resources centered in one place. This course contains most of the information you saw today on this presentation, plus additional resources that includes how our bidding product works, how to get started, to open your account, to open your monetization manager, documentation of different integration of our ad formats and mediation partners, as well as many case studies of how you can be successful with Meta Audience Network. We will share this link with you shortly too. So thank you so much for the time today. I hope this session was insightful, and I'm opening the space for some quick Q&A.
Yeah, thank you very much as well. You can bet I have some questions for you. The first one would be, how should developers approach demand diversification and working with advertisers? I mean, what have you seen as maybe most helpful strategies?
Yeah, definitely. That's a great question. So we've seen in the past that developers when we had the waterfall technology, there was a limitation on how many sources or demand sources they were adding into their architecture. Now with bidding, because of the efficiency it brings, we strongly recommend that developers add more and more demand sources, but making sure that there's also a diversification in the advertiser pools that they're bringing. So you can make sure that your users are accessing impressions from brand, e-commerce, web conversion, and many other type of content.
All right, thanks a lot. Yeah, two more questions actually. Well, the second would be, we all know the IDFA represented like a big change for the industry, as Apple more focused on user privacy over targeted advertising. So what would be the perspective what would be the best to approach the latest and upcoming privacy changes, both for buyers and sellers?
Good question.
I try.
I think sellers should use the changes to position themselves for growth, while buyers should rely more on like creative improvements, examine more buying methods like contextual ads that is becoming stronger and stronger every day, and look to work directly sometimes with suppliers. Personalized ads on iOS are now limited to those who at least opt into Apple's tracking transparency prompt, that is called the ATT, which can impact the relevancy of ads for players and measurements for developers. So it comes down to a simple thing. It's like publishers and developers and the entire ecosystem must show users now more than ever the benefit of sharing their information. And this will increase the engagement and outcomes of our industry.
All right, thanks a lot. And the last would be, I guess, well, you recently changed your name to Meta. Could you please maybe comment on what implication it has for audience network and the gaming in general?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, a very common question in the last couple of months. So yes, so at the end of October, I think CEO Mark Zuckerberg introduced Meta, which brings together our apps and technologies under a new company brand. And as a result of this change, Facebook Audience Network is now Meta Audience Network, as you've seen in the slides before. I think that the metaverse will be instrumental to the future of gaming, and we are excited about the possibilities. And we believe as a company, we have tremendous potential to help games, publisher, developers to come into the metaverse. We might have a new name, but it still have the same commitments to help and empower app developers and publishers to deliver great user experience while growing sustainable businesses.
Awesome. Well, I'm sure you do. Yeah, you're a great, valuable asset to the game industry, and thank you for being for us over there.
My pleasure.
I would also ask you about NFT, as it guys in chat say it's become my private personal matter, but I won't. So anyway, thank you very much, Thomas, for everything you shared with us today. Guys, please feel free to reach out to Thomas in case if you have some questions left. Thomas, happy upcoming holidays. I hope to meet you in 2022. Thanks again.
Definitely. Hope to meet you too. Bye-bye.